True or false? Scottie Barnes is one of the most versatile players in the entire league. In fact, I'd go so far to say he's the most versatile. He came into the NBA as an already impactful hybrid defender with some point forward potential. But the last 2 seasons have made it clear that that potential's already a reality. A player who possesses an explosive blend of athleticism, commitment, talent, and attitude. And now, he's been rewarded with the duty of leading a franchise as a modern-day point forward. Now, I know the Raptors aren't currently the most dominant team in the world. In fact, this decade's been painful for fans who only 6 seasons ago saw their players host a Larry O. But the reality is that there's only one player who can pull them out of that hole. Because at just 23 years of age, Scottie Barnes has his entire career ahead of him. And in his hands are the hopes, not only of Toronto fans, but of all Canadian fans who follow the NBA. So why can his development make him one of the best players in the world? And why can his all-around game be vital to turn things around in the North? How the hell is Scottie Barnes dominating playing point guard? Yeah, we gotta talk about this. The young Raptor star was born to Scottie Barnes Sr. and Kathleen Wilkins on August 1st, 2001 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Despite who we see now on screen as a fun-loving, wide-eyed all-star, Scottie's childhood journey was actually a tough one. His father abandoned the family when Scottie was still a child, and we know what usually happens in those cases. In part due to this, Scottie grew up with a much stronger mentality. He used that lack of a paternal figure as motivation to be the best version of himself. And he leaned on his mother, who had to do her best to help get the family ahead. That's why Scottie has an extremely strong relationship with Kathleen, as we've seen in many of his public appearances and social media posts. As in many of these cases, Scottie proved he was special from the time he was 14 years old. It certainly isn't normal for a freshman to lead his team to a record of 19 wins and 8 losses, reaching the 5A regional semifinals in his first year of high school. But Scottie was not a normal kid. After his freshman season, Scottie transferred for the first time in his high school career to NSU University School, also in Florida, where he would share a team with the top-ranked junior in the nation, Vernon Carey Jr. NSU had a stronger team, and Scottie had absolutely nothing guaranteed when he arrived. In fact, NSU was so dominant that the team's record during his sophomore year was 36 wins and 2 losses. But more importantly, they were able to win the 5A state title. With a performance of 15 points and 8 rebounds, he also led the university school to win the City of Palms Classic Championship, where he was also chosen as MVP of the tournament. And in his junior season, in which he averaged 13.1 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.8 assists per game, NSU managed to defend its title. Barnes, who only had 1 year of high school left, had already become one of the most highly rated prospects in all of Florida. Some might even say in the entire US. But that wasn't good enough for him. Scottie made the decision to transfer to Montverde Academy, a prestigious program that's helped dozens of athletes to reach the NBA. Now, if you don't follow high school basketball, you have no idea what a huge impact this transfer had. Joining Cade Cunningham and Day'Ron Sharpe, many analysts considered this roster to be one of the best in high school basketball history. Far from sinking into a stacked team rotation, Barnes averaged 11.6 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.6 assists per game, and was one of the most important players. And what was even more incredible, Montverde achieved that season an undefeated record of 25 wins and 0 losses, with an average margin of victory of 39 points. Naturally, every college wanted a player who had proven his leadership in such a tough and successful program. Rivals, 24/7 Sports, and ESPN gave him a 5-star rating, and all of these agencies placed Scottie as one of the top 10 prospects in the entire class of 2020. California, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, Miami, Ohio State, Oregon. The fight for the forward to choose their Division I programs was fierce. But Scottie loves Florida. He loves home, and he decided to accept Florida State's offer. Barnes had a good season with the Seminoles, averaging 10.3 points, 4 rebounds, 4.1 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. In addition, his 50% shooting from the field showed that he was a tremendously efficient player. Although his low volume and poor outside shooting caused some doubts among NBA franchises, his all-around game, which he had been able to demonstrate in college, was very encouraging. And for that reason, the Toronto Raptors decided to invest the 4th pick of the 2021 draft on him. Ironically, even as Barnes Sr. was not a part of his childhood life, Scottie's relatives from his father's side mainly resided in Canada, where the junior Barnes was eventually selected. Talk about fate. A decision that seemed completely justified considering that, a year later, Scottie managed to win the Rookie of the Year with averages of 15.3 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 3.2 assists per game. But even though those numbers are already impressive, that was the worst version of Scottie we're ever going to see in the NBA. It's true that during his sophomore year his progression seemed to stagnate a bit, but the jump to his third year was spectacular. Scottie increased his averages all over the stat sheet, but the most important thing was the increase in his shooting percentage from long range to an almost league average 34% after doubling his volume. With averages of 19.9 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 6.1 assists per game, he earned his first All-Star selection of his career. But this season, he's once again making a huge leap in quality. So now we're in Scottie's fourth season in the NBA. Darko Rajakovic has decided to take Barnes' game a step further. How? Well, using him fully as a point guard. Scottie's leading the Raptors in assists with 7 per night, and this new dimension of his game has turned him into an elite and true all-around player. You have to remember that this kid came into the league as an elite lockdown defender, who was even compared to OG Anunoby by his coach Nick Nurse when he first came into the league. But now he's become a fully packaged offensive player, something that's necessary for Toronto to one day emerge from the rebuilding process that they're currently immersed in. Not that there's much left on that roster from 2019, which was led by Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry, and was able to win a ring. In fact, only Chris Boucher still on the team almost 6 years later. Lowry, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet, and of course Kawhi Leonard left the franchise during the seasons following the title. And although Toronto tried to compete for some time, the arrival of new coach Darko Rajakovic meant the arrival of a new project, a new idea. A rebuild that would try to bring a big market like Toronto back to the league's elite. But they weren't about to start from scratch. The Raptors received good returns from the veterans from that championship run. Players who are still young and have a lot of potential like Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, or Ochai Agbaji, all who came to Toronto through trades. In addition, their draft picks such as Scottie Barnes or Gradey Dick have proven to be a wise move by the management. With a core like that, the Raptors are optimistic about the future. But the truth is, they need that leader. They're going to need that player to instill a winning culture in the team, and Scottie Barnes is absolutely balling out for that role. It's not just because of his likable personality. Scottie's a player who doesn't cause problems off the court. A player whose passion is basketball. But he's also a player with tremendous responsibility. After the Grizzlies moved from Vancouver to Memphis, the Raptors became the only Canadian franchise in the NBA. But the point is, basketball's becoming more important in Canada every day. It's something we've seen with their national team. They're getting stronger and stronger, they're closing the gap between Team USA and the rest of the world, forming stronger and stronger national rosters in each tournament. But this popularity is not spontaneous. Legends like Florida's own Vince Carter or two-time MVP Steve Nash were crucial in attracting the attention from fans for a country that had always been somewhat reluctant to follow basketball. But they, along with Kawhi Leonard when he got that 2019 ring, are the cause of more and more kids seeing basketball as a viable outlet. Something that's caused, at the same time, the Raptors fan base to continue to grow. Practically from Charlottetown, PEI, all the way west to Vancouver Island, the entire country of Canada supports them. They're the only team that represents an entire nation in the best basketball league in the world. And now, Scottie Barnes seems to be the only player capable of making these fans hope again. In one of the most complicated moments in the recent history of the franchise, a 23-year-old from Florida has been chosen to carry the keys, to carry that responsibility. The responsibility to return Canada to its historic place. Who knows if in a couple of decades, people will talk about Scottie Barnes the way they now talk about Vince Carter. Who knows if he'll be the one in charge of reigniting that flame that must never stop burning in Toronto. Who knows if the leadership of another new super athlete from warm, sunny Florida will be able to conquer one of the coldest basketball cities in all of the NBA.